Good evening, YouTube. Thraspondo's back with another one of my infamous Retched recaps. And today's going to be a little treat. It's going to be a Boris Karloff inspired comic brought to us in the mid-70s by Gold Key Comics. And that's as much of my deplorable Karloff as you're going to get today. Here we have some nice cover art. We see a giant insectoid thing victimizing what appears to be Bruce Campbell. And we're going to open it up and get right into the action. Okay, here we see a college professor on a, I guess you'd call it, expedition, reminiscing about avalanche he endured. But we go to a flashback first, where we see him trekking into the wilderness and some of his students backsassing him. And then we go right into the avalanche, thus making the flashback all but superfluous. Anyway, the professor appears to be the sole survivor, and he's rescued by a group of natives who nurse him back to health, give him food to rebuild his constitution, and even remark on his tobacco pipe. Whether or not they can find him tobacco in the jungle is a mystery. But he's reveling in his good luck, and oh look, and we go to the first advertisement. And this one is for Hostess individually wrapped snack cakes. And in this edition, you get some baseball cards along with your cake of choice. What could be more 70s? Oh, and one thing I probably should mention at this point, the reason for the professor's expedition was to find a giant ape-like creature that the natives worship. And, well, he finds it. One night they put him out on stakes and leave him as a sacrifice to said ape monster god. He then realizes they weren't in fact actually nursing him back to health. They were fattening him up for this sacrificial purpose. But then, in what I can only describe as an astonishing stroke of luck, the creature is allergic to tobacco smoke, and a plume of tobacco gets to the monster, thus killing it, thereby making him the new thing of worship among these jungle dwellers. And, of course, it has to be ruined by Boris Karloff. He comes in at the end and suggests this might be a Treasure of the Sierra Madre event where the guy's good fortune may not be as good as he thinks it is, as it just wasn't only moments before. So not a bad theory. Anyway, then moving forward, we see in the next story, this one is about a carny who shows off a monster man. I see a trend in this episode. And he's telling the folks, hey, fear not, I have total control. And he goes to great lengths to show just how much control he has over this poor victimized monster, who then suddenly snaps and moves on to advertisements. Yes, here we see some of those old get-rich-quick schemes or impress your friends or what. Anyway, moving back to the action, the monster snaps and attacks a lady, and the carny apologizes and says, fear not, I always had total control. And we switch to a scene afterwards where he's actually chastising the monster, and the monster kicks in to very articulately remind this carny who's in charge. And we now see it's sort of a, I guess you'd call it one of those reverse ventriloquist bits, where in fact the monster man is the one calling the shots, and the puppet master is actually the one having his strings pulled. What a twist. Oh, look, another advertisement. This one was huge back in the 70s. They were iron-on patches. So what you'd do is you would take one of your old T-shirts, and you'd send away for these patches. There's a nice one there with an owl. And and they would send them to you in a kit, and you would iron the patch on, turning a run-of-the-mill T-shirt into something you could wear to impress your friends, if your friends were really, really easy to impress. Moving forward, here we see the cover art story. We see a group of gentlemen hiding out in the woods with funny hats and firearms, and all of a sudden, a young man runs up to them and says, help, help, I'm being chased by a monster. And they're like, monster, of course, what have you been smoking? Until finally, oh, well, if that don't beat all, there is a monster. And they open fire on the monster, just in time for more advertisements. Oh, these were actually patches. You didn't iron these on, you actually had to sew these on. I don't know where we got all this time. But yeah, you'd put them on like your denim jacket or the back of your denim jeans for when you wore your denim suit to school. Moving forward. So anyway, the guns don't work, so some guy comes up with a brilliant idea. Why don't we just use the dynamite we just happen to have lying around? And they try the dynamite on the monster thingy, and that fails as well. So they come up with an even brillianter plan, and they take a couple of earth movers and basically Marachi crunch the monster. And I'm starting to think, what were these people doing? Building the Panama Canal? But in any event, that also has no avail, and they ultimately just give up and leave this poor dude to his fate. And we find out it's sort of the hidden situation, where the guy pleading for help is actually another one of these monster thingies, and the pursuing monster thingy was actually their universe's equivalent of a policeman, and he brings the thing being pursued, the runner-awayer, back to justice. And then we bring to the last story, and this one is about a couple of scientists attempting to imbue a robot with human intelligence. They do so by trying to download the professor, I guess the smarter of the two professors, intelligence into the robot. And they're remarking about how this may benefit or detriment mankind, and while they're not particularly paying attention, the experiment goes awry, and the professor giving his intelligence is killed. The professor doing the transferring feels incredibly guilty. He goes, "Oh no, I've killed the professor. I'm so horrified I could just die." And the robot goes, "Your wish is my command," and goes on a quest to try to get revenge on the killing of his predecessor, only to find out, you know what I think? I don't think he's trying to kill me. I think he's responding to my wishes and just trying to obey my command. So if I stop thinking about getting killed, perhaps he'll stop trying to kill me. And lo and behold, it works. Hey, it was a long shot, but you can't argue with its success. We then go on to a couple of end-of-comic advertisements. This must have been getting close to the bicentennial, because here those little cheapo plastic army men they always sell at the back of these things are Revolutionary era soldiers, redcoats and colonials alike. And even this Richard Hall-esque sales scam they have at the back. Did any of you ever remember that whole Rich Hall movie? Oh well. And in this case, they actually have revolutionary themes. The young lady is dressed like Betsy Ross, and the gentleman here kind of has a whole George Washington thing going on. But anyway, that's all I got for you guys tonight. It's getting chilly down here. I'm actually in my garage because the ladies have taken over the rest of the house. But that is my latest Retched recap. Now remember, like, subscribe, and all those nice things I'm always begging you people to do. Until later, peace and chicken grease, and I'm looking forward to seeing you all very, 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 very soon.